Tulsa Public Schools are in the process of setting up their budget for the upcoming school year. The district treasurer says it's not looking good. He's anticipating $3 million less from the state. That's after the district has cut all it could.
State aid is down about $20 million for us alone over the past 4 or 5 years. That whole time, the student population across the state has grown by about 30,000.
Now, a big chunk of the Tulsa Public School District's budget comes from property tax.
There's enough money owed to make up the district's shortfall of $20 million. That's according to records from the Tulsa County Treasurer's Office.
2 News investigators and Marla Carter pored over those property taxes owed in Tulsa County for the past year, 2012. Now, the investigators show us who's not paying and who it hurts.
1/8, 1/8, 1/8.
For Miss A, her math problem,
How many eighths does it take to equal 1 whole?
is figuring out how to get 25 desks in a 300-square-foot classroom.
Space is a precious commodity here. What's the top number called?
With 25 students, this Burroughs Elementary room is a tight fit.
People don't talk about the physical environment and the physical limitations of the classroom as well when you have 25 to 30 students. I've had multiple kids bonk their heads with each other when they're just trying to scoot out their chairs.
Across town, there are open seats at this movie theater at 103rd and Memorial. Star World 20, like many other businesses, are helping fund schools through property taxes. Except the county treasurer says this theater didn't pay up in 2012. Theater owner Spirit Master Funding, owned by Thomas H. Nolan, owes $126,000, the most for last year alone.
So if you can give us a call back, that'd be great.
We called the Arizona-based company, but they didn't return our calls. And they're not alone. The 2 News investigators poured over 1,000 pages of 18,000 properties owned by individuals and businesses that owe taxes for the year of 2012 at a grand total of $20 million when you add in interest. Record show number 2 on the list is Resource One. It's a direct marketing firm and owes $122 grand in property taxes. They too didn't return our calls. Then there's this shopping center at 61st and South Memorial, Eaton Square. Its former owner, Transcontinental Realty out of Dallas, owes $107,000 for 2012, according to the treasurer's office. Its CEO didn't call us back either, but that's just 2012. Our investigators dug deeper than just into these 1,000 pages. The investigators found the theater actually owes another 10 grand more in interest, making its grand total $136,000. And records show that Resource One did not pay in 2012 or in 2011 as well. They actually owe a grand total of $286,000. And Eaton Square owes more than $500,000 when you add up their back taxes and interest, still going all the way back to 2009.
It's a lot of money.
But we didn't stop there. We found one business owes taxes on 100 properties. Brightside Properties owns and rents out dozens of homes. They owe $201,000 in taxes for the past 3 years. The owner, Rod Sperlin, didn't answer the door or return our calls. We wanted to know what happens to these violators. So we went to the Tulsa County Treasurer's office.
If they're not paid, they begin accruing interest at the rate of 1.5% per month.
For the property owners here and the thousands of others who still owe for last year, that interest started accruing on May 15th. Eventually, after 3.5 years, if the property taxes and interest are not paid,
the property will be sold for non-payment of taxes.
And Eaton Square is one of those properties ready to be sold for back taxes. However, we talked to the new owner, U.S. Acquisition Properties out of Denver, and they are planning to pay $146,000 of those back taxes by the end of the month to keep it from being sold. They also told 2 News they plan to pay the rest of the taxes owed by the previous owner over time. In a statement, they said, "We just took title of the property in the past 30 days. We have been getting our arms around the property and what needs to be addressed." But for the rest of the property owners who owe back taxes, every dollar not paid can't help the services it is supposed to fund. 46% of property taxes goes to county services like the library and the health department. The other 54% all goes to schools. That means just the money owed in property taxes for 2012, the money that would go to schools, could pay the salaries for 200 TPS teachers.
Those should be equal.
For Miss A, that solution could mean fewer students in her classroom, more room for the children, and more room to learn.
Well, you think that at some point in time, I don't know if it's getting community, parents involved, that we recognize the ramifications of these large class sizes on our students.
Again, there are more than 18,000 properties on the list of delinquent taxes, and over the next few months, we'll continue to dig deeper into who owes and just how badly it affects our schools and our community. To see a list of the top 10 businesses on who owes the most, just head over to our website, KJRH.com, and look for this story under investigations. Marla Carter, 2 News works for you.
In a 2 News investigation, Oklahoma overdue. Schools are struggling financially, and lawmakers say that funding is less now than it was 4 years ago.
The 2 News investigators discovered a serious delay in state funding. In fact, it's so bad that districts won't see the money until next year.
2 News investigator Marla Carter uncovers the state's delinquent tax bill.
Go ahead and go to the start menu.
It's almost school time again. Property taxes help your kid's classroom, like paying for teachers and textbooks.
That's really cool.
Paid by property owners like Robertson Tire.
We have 17 properties in Tulsa County and 5 in Rogers County and 1 in Wagner County.
And all of that adds up to $150,000 a year in property taxes. Well, Robertson and many businesses across Green Country pay that bill on time. Thousands are late. In May, the 2 News investigators exposed some companies that owe hundreds of thousands of dollars. This time, we went digging for the worst offender, the one who owes the most in unpaid property taxes for Tulsa County. That offender, the state of Oklahoma.
So the state of Oklahoma doesn't have a deadline of when that money's due.
That's right.
I don't know how they can get away with that.
The 2 News investigators pored over delinquent property taxes and found the state of Oklahoma owes almost $2 million to Tulsa County.
Do you think it's fair that the state has more time than everybody else to pay? Is that fair?
The state is providing the money, and we could not be constitutionally in position to make that payment if there are no funds available.
Jeff Spellman is over property taxes for the state. The fund he's talking about pays the property taxes for hundreds of Oklahoma businesses. So here's the problem. It's a math problem. The state owes 50-some counties a total of $46 million. The fund to pay for those property taxes only gets $20 million a year, half of what it needs, leaving $26 million that the state can't pay on time.
Usually that money will be available probably by January of the following year.
January of the following year. That's a year after your property taxes are due.
What kind of word was that?
The tax commission says its hands are tied, and it can only reimburse schools and counties once it gets more money.
The state of Oklahoma can't pay to the counties any money they don't have.
Yes, Micah.
Meanwhile, schools wait. At her State of the State 2 weeks ago, Governor Fallin proclaimed education as one of her top goals.
We've tried in my budget over the years to protect education as much as possible.
Knowing her mission is to fund education, we wanted to ask the governor why the state takes so long paying its tax bill to fund schools. For weeks, we tried to set up an interview and get answers from the state's top government official. But her office repeatedly turned us down. Finally, we caught up with her at the State of the State 2 weeks ago and asked her about the delay in payment. She said a fix is up to the legislature.
I'm always happy to look at any issue. It's hard to make a judgment call on legislation until it's written and until the issue is thoroughly discussed, but I'm certainly open to listen to any type of suggestions of how we can improve that for our communities and certainly for education.
That's not good enough for State Senator Sean Burridge.
We definitely need to find a way to pay our bills on time. We owe that to the citizens.
After what we told him, Burridge is working on a legislative fix.
I'd like to talk to the Senate leadership, both Democrat and Republican. We can look for maybe a legislative fix, some way to maybe ease the pain on these school districts and get our bills paid on time.
We're excited to be able to...
Now we'll just have to see if the governor takes a look at it as promised.
Get them paid early, take care of our schools.
What was the link, Jessica?
Meanwhile, schools are dealing with a smaller budget for textbooks and larger class sizes. There are fewer resources and individual attention for each child. Marla Carter, 2 News works for you.
Now, since we started asking the state why it hasn't paid up on property taxes, it paid $300,000 to Tulsa County.
School funding is down from 2009, but a fix could be as simple as people paying their back property taxes, which pay for teacher salaries and textbooks. The investigators found more than $12 million still owed in Tulsa County alone. 2 News investigator Marla Carter shows the person who owes the most, and you may be surprised by the lifestyle she leads.
This is Lori Parsons, seen here at a golf tournament. She is the president and sole owner of Builders Steel Company Incorporated here in Tulsa. It's a construction company that, according to industry websites, has annual sales of around $10 million. She lives in a large home that's equipped with a theater room with leather seats, a fitness room, 11 baths, 7 bedrooms, and an in-ground pool, complete with her monogram in the tile bottom. Lori Parsons, who owns the home with her husband Brent, has been in the news lately. Earlier this month, Lori and Brent pleaded guilty to federal corruption charges. The charges were the result of a multi-million-dollar plan involving construction projects for the Choctaw Nation. According to court documents, the Parsons used Choctaw money paid to Builders Steel for goods and services to pay for personal items and trips. The sales receipts for their expenditures include the following: $855,000 at Louis Vuitton, $252,000 at Saks Fifth Avenue, $166,000 at Tiffany & Company. And those trips? $147,000 were spent on exclusive resorts. There was even a 1-week hunting trip to New Mexico that cost an additional $97,000. But none of the money Lori was spending went toward her property taxes on her home. Lori Parsons still owes $41,000 in property taxes for 2012. We wanted to know why she isn't paying. We started by calling.
This is Marla with Channel 2.
Then we went to her work.
I'm Marla with Channel 2, and I'm here to see Lori Parsons.
We tried to catch up with Lori Parsons at her 10,000 square foot home that's on the market for $2.6 million. In fact, it's so big, our camera can't even capture the house in one shot.
The Parsons weren't home. Neither Lori nor Brent Parsons returned our calls, but their attorney did give us this statement saying she has every intention of meeting her property tax obligations and will make every effort with her remaining resources to satisfy her obligations. The $41,000 she owes in back taxes on this home could put another teacher and a dozen computers into Jenks Public Schools.
We're launching a new segment every Tuesday night at 10. We're tracking your tax dollars so you can decide if they're being put to good use. Send us an email if you have a story idea at investigators@kjrh.com. Marla Carter, 2 News works for you.
Thank you, Marla. Now, the U.S. Attorney's Office expects the Parsons to be sentenced in about 6 months. They could face time behind bars. With school now underway, many districts are short on funding. Property taxes pay for teachers' salaries and textbooks and computers.
But the 2 News investigators found that some businesses owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in back taxes, money that could pay teachers' salaries. Well, after what investigator Marla Carter uncovered, one business decided to pay up.
For months, the 2 News investigators have been pouring through documents looking at who hasn't paid their taxes still for 2011. Some of the worst offenders are businesses. In May, we told you about 3 businesses that owed the most in delinquent property taxes for 2012. Combined, the trio owed $900,000 in back taxes. Second on the list was Resource One, a marketing firm out of North Tulsa. Monday of this week, it still owed $297,000 in late taxes from 2011 and 2012. After we called Resource One, telling them about our upcoming special on property taxes, we asked them why they hadn't paid up. And suddenly, the company paid the next day, after being behind for 2 years. Once that money is divvied up in the county, just its share could pay the salaries of 5 teachers. But that's just the beginning. The investigators found millions of dollars still owed just in Tulsa County. Find out who's not paying and how it's affecting your child's school. Watch our 30-minute special this Friday at 7 o'clock. We're tracking your tax dollars. Marla Carter, 2 News works for you.
Marla, thanks. Now, we asked Resource One to comment on why it was behind on property taxes. They didn't respond.